Live. Okay. Hi. It's day before election day. Obviously, please vote for the sake of Earth. We have to love every voter on Earth and every being on Earth. But Biden and Harris, because it's just about listening to the heart of every grandmother on Earth now and every grandmother that's ever lived. Really, how would every grandmother feel about how we're treating Earth and how we're treating each other? Right? Because all we are is born from the love light of every being ever, right? No matter what your belief system, what your religion or non-religion is, it's like, why not? Why not just because treat every day as the only day, the last day ever? So yeah, everybody that we think is our enemy is our friend. So if I want to open like even open one or two or three Republican voters' hearts, because people already have the most wonderful hearts. You start out as the most sacred baby ever, and you always will be that, right? Ask your they can remember back from the day you were born. And if they can't because you're adopted or you didn't get the amount of love that you deserve, then we're sending you all the love in the world now. Because, like, if anybody, because think of it, people are wonderful deep down. If people are mean to you, don't take it personal. I do that. I'm an idiot so many times a day. I like take stuff personally. But people are doing their trip of being mean and divisive and bullying because that's how they were treated, and that's the echo chamber they were surrounded by. And in an inviting, a loving way for standing for the earth, like we have to find ways to show people we know for years, our family, our friends, and wonderful new strangers, the joy of standing up for the earth, like the joy of activism. Like, go turn off the screen now. Or if you're still watching, then just remember when you do turn off the screen, every song that's ever been from every grandmother and every mountain and every fish and every plant ever. I said fish and plant together because before there were mammals, folks were living underwater, and there were fish before they were primates. And like mammals are just like the last 400 million years. I mean, the tiniest. Because I always think for decades, I feel like because I'm a science moron. I can't retain, like my head's like a sieve. I can't retain stuff for more than 3 or 4 or 5 seconds. But one thing that always sits with me is that the amoeba is like the first peace circle or the first time you just said yes to just getting high. You're like, oh my God, everybody's got to know this feeling of like love for everyone and that everybody's family and everyone is friend. And even if somebody's coming at you, right, it's going to be my last moment on earth that I want to absolutely love someone who's coming to kill me. I mean, I'll try and duck or sing to them, and then they'll forget they want to kill me because we don't like to live some longer years. But dude, I'm 62 now, so that's past life expectancy of well over 40 countries, mostly sub-Saharan African males and Haitian males, because Haiti, closer to the U.S., is perennially our entire lifetime. It's always been the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, like as punishment for successful slave revolt over 200 years ago. That's so we'll show you. So we're not going to be post-racial, when Biden and Kamala become presidents, you know. So and Bernie, stay in good health so you can help guide. So because it's not about it's I mean think about it. Folks are saying um, it's everybody. We're always in it together. It's just and suddenly it's boosting to the immune system, and you're not hunched arthritically, and you get to sing and breathe and dance with the heart of every other when you remember that we're all born from the heart of every other. I forget that, like I say, times a day, and I should be quiet because friends are always going, Jeff, just play instead or paint instead. So there, and a painting in there. So there you go. Bring love and see what happens. And it's immigrant, the word it's over there. So it's everyone's an immigrant, okay? And compassion lives in everyone. I'm scared to notice that in some parts of every day, but if you don't root for someone who's done the meanest, the terrible, most terrible stuff, they've ordered Dovi's death squads and bombings and starving of people and knowingly giving folks like tainted water supplies and um, you can it it doesn't take here. Oh, look up the hashtag idle no more, IDLE no more, because it was started by some women professors in First Nations, Western Canada. Three of them, I think, Indigenous, one not. But it was during the administration before Justin Trudeau. It was Prime Minister Stephen Harper, and he was more like George W. Bush. They were buddies, and like in terms of pipeline and oil and fracking and so you have people who had never um, done overt the activism of the heart every day because every moment on earth is ceremony. And when I say that, I mean like every thing is a prayer, but it could be the jammiest prayer, and you make it up on the spot. You know what I mean? Like the people that have been running the prayer for 20, 30 years, they're stuck in a traffic jam, and you're like, oh, what do I do? It's like, no, your native friends, your indigenous friends will always say that spirit's always coming through you. It's like most Americans when they're interviewed, like if for decades I had read that like the number one and two things that Americans are scared of, or most European descendants are like uh, most Americans are scared of public speaking and death. And so it's the opposite of all our indigenous friends because they know that love and life and everything, the heart connection, the community connection never stops just because you're technically dead. That's why dream time, is always reachable and visitable. So if um, someone's like, oh, well, I can't get through to that senator or that congressperson, or those people that sits on the boards, or I can't reach Kissinger, and he has the ear of so many ex-presidents. And well, in dreams, make it so inviting to these people that sit on these boards, directors that are so horrible to the earth, and make it so loving. So that the people like that, I don't want to be at another meeting. I want to be making up poems and swimming through the air and making up songs in dreams tonight with new and old loved ones, and then you wake up revivified because in the dreams you get like hundreds of times I've gotten to fly in dreams, and what start out as like nightmare situations end up in the most wonderful ways because you unflinchingly go up to whoever the biggest meanie, the bully, the dictator, the head of the jail, the head of the police department, the general, whoever the generalissimo is, and whoever got trained across this, next to Fort Benning, Georgia, School of the Americas, whatever the name change is, the annual, Thanksgiving protest and just protest in general, because like the colonels and other people that have experts in torture in Central and South America were trained here in Georgia, in America, with our tax dollars. So well, you could say, who's tax? All right, this is all right. I'm going to be quiet, because the earth really wants us to just sing thanks to it and to send healing energy to anybody who's overwhelmed right now. Because if our policies from Reagan caused, like if you have wonderful Guatemalan and El Salvadoran neighbors, it's because folks had to leave because of our tax dollars and just funneled contra money went to funding death squads. Like if you were just trying to college student in Guatemala, speaking out on behalf of just basic decency, just human needs, agrarian reform, and you could be just targeted. And right here, 6.5 miles away, Edgar Chamorro, one of the Contra leaders, was testified at the trial with Amy Carter and Abby Hoffman, and Ramsey Clark flew in and flew out. Most of the people stayed around, like Daniel Ellsberg was here for many days, and Howard Zinn for a number of days, and it was this trial where actually like the side of the people, the side of the earth won here based on English common law, necessity defense. Like it was challenging the CIA's right to be recruiting on campus at UMass and take over like building, and do you have the right? And the point being, the necessity defense is you would steal a rowboat to save a burning building. So Amy Carter and Abby Hoffman and some it was like 15 folks in the trial, but there had been like 60 altogether arrested. I'm trying to remember. I recorded the whole trial. Oh, great! This is going to be the NSA with bulk eraser over my place now. Um, and and I never did follow up on this because I didn't believe. Like Abby Hoffman, I was like still heartbroken and still questioning, like how could he have killed himself 2 years later in 1989? And Abby would say to me, because I kept going up to him, we would talk about because it's a strong feminist, amazing community here that I hitched up to in 1982, and so I'd only been here 5 years. Well, 2 months shy of 5 years when Abby came to town, and I'd be like, you just got to go. Like I know you have your humor, you want to blow up everything with your humor, but like hear the hearts of the other folks. And oh, what was it? I was thinking the other day, I was saying because Kevin McHale, he hated Kevin McHale so much, and he had a lawsuit he wanted to bring against the NBA and the Army together. Because in the 80s, there was this Be All You Can Be Still campaign for the Army, and they would go from um, a fast break, going down the court really fast in basketball, and like the handling, the teamwork. I hand it to you, and then they go to like in the field, and you with your mortar shells, the teamwork of going and being gunnery experts and killing people. And so Abby took great issue with that. And the thing is, because Abby and Ellsberg being part of the trial, people always wanted a piece of Abby Hoffman or Daniel Ellsberg because that would make you'd get headlines and people would come and the press would cover your trial, you know. Um, because that made, when they got acquitted here in April '87, that made a smaller, lower part of below the fold of New York front page of New York Times. But just a little bit after, and Amy couldn't be there because she was in trouble of risking getting thrown out of Brown University for cutting so much school for doing activism of the heart. Thank you, Amy. And so she didn't show up just a little after, when about over 500 folks got arrested at McLean, Virginia, protesting CIA, the follow-up, protesting it there. I'm trying to remember. So Ellsberg was there. And so um, there we had a surprise birthday party for Ellsberg at what is now the record store, at what is now very careful steps as you get colder, even if it's not cold and icy, with very careful long steps to turn it up. Music right on the corner of Peter Pleasant. We're here in Northampton, and Northampton's amazing, but it's more conservative than Florence, just 3.5 miles away. That's where the statue of Sojourner Truth is. And she would like help Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, and she was friends with them. Well, she was friends. They'd bless each other. They, you know, there was this. It's a house. It's a part time. It can. There's not enough volunteers to keep it open full time, but it's Underground Railroad Museum, and David Ruggles, who was the first African American bookseller, and he also had a water cure. You know how people would leave New York to go to like Saratoga for the sulfur, the water cure, and so his water cure got visited by one of the people that came to get blessed and visited by was John Brown's wife. Well, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her name, but I forget everybody's name. I forget that Sojourner Truth's name is Isabella. And everybody's got a million names that are being sung. And if I could be quiet, I'd hear. And that what every song that every plant has ever taught us, every title, every sacred word that every plant learned from every mountain. Because again, all your indigenous friends would be like, yeah, there were no mammals a billion years ago, so we're rocks talking to each other. Okay, we're little bacteria, like just jamming out, like singing to each other. Or before that, we're molten lava, just dancing with each other. 13.7 billion years ago, we start to be just dust jamming, or just dancing gas, right? And it's like, but by the time you hear us, maybe um, it might be a different measurement of distance of like of 13.7 something billion years ago from the first the creation of the universe, which was really the first orgasm, or it's tied for first place with all the other beginnings of all the other universes. But think of it, something as powerful as having to come into existence. Like the first time you come, you're like, you don't know, because nobody instructed you on what the entirety of what it's going to feel like. And it's like, this could be crazy. I could be obliterated. I don't know what's going on, but I have to move towards it. This is pretty, very, very wonderful. But hopefully you just keep it in this very sacred space so you get all the other work that there is to get done every day on Earth. So, we're in the roof here, so that's the wonderful wind. The wind is there. You go, all the angels in whatever wind. Like look at see it just she survived the Nazi occupation of was it Belgium or France? From My Fair Lady, Audrey Hepburn. And before she died of lung cancer, and she worked so hard for the UN, standing up so beautifully. But her last role was just total in white, and she was the representation, explaining to somebody that that they had died like some months ago, and but wind. Oh, my point being that whenever wind moves something, like the trees that are growing towards each other, and they were planted like 25 years apart, and they're on each side of the river here, and they're like leaning towards each other, and they go, and then in the spring, and then in the summer, the leaves finally get to touch, because the wind, you wonder how much amazing joyful collusion there is of all your dead loved ones, and then everybody else's dead loved ones of every species ever. They're like, how can we go and sing and get the winds to go get the unfurled leaves to go kiss and touch each other? The leaves are like, I'm up here in a month. It'll be less than a month. It'll be 23 years here. And so the trees that grow up way tall here I couldn't see. And I looked out the window, but instead of saying, oh, your trees are blocking my view of the sky, or blocking my view of the other trees, dude, they come up these like goldfinches, and but they're gone now, and the cedar waxwings headed down. I just learned what the cedar waxwings were called. Everybody's my teacher. Like everybody's my teacher. Everybody's teacher. Then we wouldn't get into fights over like use of time. Be like, you always excuse yourself to whatever you need to be doing, what the heart says, what your heart feels really, really right for the sake of Earth. But as you're doing it, everyone, even if people like, we need to talk to you about this. I'll be sending you. I have to run for a day straight, or I have to walk for a mile and a half, and I'll be sitting on a hill under a tree. But I'll be sending you and everyone else love as I paint what I have to paint, or dance what I have to dance, or sing what I have to sing, right? Because every being that used to live is handing us songs. Like the second you turn off the recorder, then you can hear every song that you're made of and that everyone is made of. So you'd never I never run out. Okay, so wait. Oh, so B. We'll try and B. Okay. Sorry if it's going too soft. It's just that I heard it back for the first time. It was the first time going live on YouTube yesterday, and it was so distorted. So I figure if I go really soft, sorry. I hope I wasn't talking too loud this whole time. Go house down forever beyond. Thanks to every great grandmother that is alive on earth right now. The ones that ruled every other's lovely. Everyone's the song of every other. Everyone's the heart of every other. Everyone's the loving light of every other. Thank you, every being ever. Thank you, every grandmother sits in the heart, in the song, in the breath, in the love, in the water of the every other. When I say water, we mean dust as well. If you're dust on Mars now, you've got water dreams going on, water songs going on in every moment, thanks to every dream of every being ever. How come when we walk down the street, we don't think about what every other being is dreaming? Our dog friends probably have the most amazing smell dreams. They smell the entirety of every interaction. Maybe not as well as that dog over there, but stay in good health. So by the time we meet up again, we'll have like decoders, and we'll be able to get the 18 million words that the dogs are really saying to each other. All the nuances that I shouldn't say we, that I'm too slow to pick up on. Stand up for Earth's sake. Well, it's very standist or footist. So for say rise up, because no matter what you have, whatever parts of the body you still have intact and are working, and even if you're like the second act of Happy Days, not the show with the Fonz, but the play by Samuel Beckett, the Public Theater in Lower Manhattan, sort of about 40 years ago, 41 years ago or something. Yeah, I'm not sure, 39 years ago. And so our hero, Winnie is buried up to her waist for the first half of the play, and then with access to just all the different props, and her husband, maybe there's a line or two or something, but it's her play, it's her entire, this woman was amazing, I wish I could remember her name. And then the second act comes, and now she's buried up to here, but you have your beautiful mind to get you through the horror or the comedy of whatever, and that's kind of whatever's going on. Everything's always inviting us to sing with it. Like if we find ourselves repeating some news, it could be the most intense political thing, it could be gossipy. How dare we ever repeat something in the same way we heard it before? Every moment is the most sacred moment ever. Sing it to someone. So if someone comes up to you with a litany of complaints, be like, oh man, you're breaking my heart. You're right. I fail you in this, and this way. But sing it to me. Sing how you feel it and sing the truth. Sing all the truths you have to tell me, but just sing them so that I I know how you feel. And then when you do that, you just you create space to, there's people we love, they're friends of ours, or they're family members we love our whole life, but we still fail at like bringing up everything because we're all scared of rejection, or we're all scared of fighting, and we'd all rather just, we there you go, we'd rather like laugh or sing. So this way, if you can bring up the heaviest, like, you know, you know, you break my heart when you shoot at other people. Sorry it took me so long to bring that up to you. The world sings from the heart of everything. Your love lights us when we're scared to light. Turns out you get re-centered, re-energized, and re-love lit, and re-swimming through every obstacle that's coming at us when we don't mind any love right now. When we don't mind handing out love now. When we don't mind handing out love now. For the sake of every earth, for the sake of every other, let's all of a sudden not mind handing out love right now. Stand up to Mitch McConnell, stand up to Lindsey Graham, stand up to Donald Trump, all for the sake of Earth. It's not about you or I. It's not about Republicans or Democrats. It's about the Earth needing us to love each other right now. For us to love, when I say each other, I mean the Earth needs us to love every species right now. Right? You see these UN reports come out. UN report comes out that says all these species are going to die in the next 20 and 30 and 40 years, and even less years, 50 years and 10 years. And so if the UN report was that, oh, it's humans, not these other species, but humans that are going to die, and it is humans, but what I mean is like wiped out. And you'd be like, oh, well, I know humans, but if we knew every ant, and every butterfly, and every mouse, as well as we do our best friends, we'd be rooting for everyone. So it's like, yeah, but the mouse is leaving poop all over. So you give the mouse things to do, things to play with, things to jam with, and an area filled with like the food that it loves, so it stays more. I mean, unless I mean, mice dancing, on your toes or shoulders can be a blessing sometimes. Like, it's like really, yeah, you really, it's like once coming from a dead show. All right, here we go. No, it's just like, in fact, this was the last fall tour before Jerry Garcia died, and it was like, so it's beginning of October '94, Faneuil Hall, waiting for a bus to go back to Western Mass. It's like 5 a.m, and like, and I don't remember. I've only seen parts of Five Will Goes, An American Tale, like the Mouse family, the Jewish Mouse family. So I'm Jewish from Queens High. So, I mean, I feel more Buddhist than Jewish, but that whole rabbinical thing of just wanting to like really what is here? What is here? Let's feel what this is written here and try and meditate on it and talk about it. And but I still feel like I have issue with every orthodox of every religion, because I only love the compassion part of every religion, because if you have in them the Ten Commandments, if you don't have that, thou shalt not commit rape and thou shalt not have slaves. Nobody should have slaves. Nobody should commit rape. And those should be the 12 commandments, or replace the other two, because there's too much about God, because you can say too much about God. God to me is love, right? And, the first, the people are going, no, he's going to say that. No, in the late 80s, there was a whole conference at Hampshire College, part of the Five College, where Amherst, UMass, Mount Holyoke, Smith, in Hampshire. And at Hampshire, there was a whole weekend symposium on, in literature, the role of Lilith. And Lilith was Adam's first wife, who wouldn't be submissive to Adam, which is why, like on Cheers, Frasier's wife Lilith, she doesn't take poop like from anybody, dude. He really said poop. He said all this other stuff, and you can always say poop. I Yeah, it's so. Oh, I'm just all right. I should stop talking. Okay, I'm just like totally spacing out. I just well, I gotta. Oh, I've been up since what, 6, and it's 8:07. It's the day before Election Day. Um, I was just trying to. What was the thread with Lilith? The whole idea. Yeah, don't let some. Oh, right, because I'm like a descendant of the hunter of the hunt of the nomad hunters that came and killed off the goddess cults. So, and look up a book. Give this book out on Passover and Easter to all your loved ones, and then meet up again months later at whatever the next amazing family gathering, or Zoom together. You don't have to wait for Thanksgiving or whatever. And so read. It's called The Chalice and the Blade, like the chalice, the Christ goblet, and the blade, like all the machetes still heartbreakingly being used, just around the world. And it's by Rian Eisler. It's like Diane, but with an R, and Eisler. And what I was saying yesterday about Maria Gimbutas, she's the woman most referred to, even more than Elaine Pagels, in The Chalice and the Blade. And she had, by the time she was like 15 or 16, she'd collected all these songs. It turns out all the songs and all the earthenware and the textiles and ways of being have been carrying on for thousands of years, and no one had written a book about old Europe. And that's why she was invited to be a teaching fellow at Harvard when World War II ended. But Harvard didn't treat her well, like most women academics. She wasn't being honored, and so she went out to teach for a couple of decades at UCLA archaeology. But because she didn't publish until 1974, then that's why I was saying yesterday about how Joseph Campbell, his biggest regret was not talking about her work. But she didn't publish till 74, and he'd already published so much because he probably passed around 86 or 87 or something, and that's why their work is put, this repository is together in some, I forget what graduate college in California. And so Maria Gimbutas, Marija space Gimbutas. And but as long as we're at it, Ella Baker and Shirley Chisholm and Diane Nash and Joanna Macy and oh, and in terms of peacemakers, I just had all these women in a row. Now, two guys, Resma Menachem, he's a clinical psychologist in Minneapolis, where George Floyd was murdered on American families, but he works with he also worked with the Minneapolis Police Department in showing them, like, because when you're going and witnessing things, you internalize that in your body. When you witness things that against your moral code, and you don't stand up and you keep letting it happen, you wear that pain in your body. And he goes and works with like families, works with contractors, folks who are working in and absorbing the pain of war, even though they're not going around, and they still could die. Contractors could still die from an IED, but it's less likely than a soldier. And that's like that's, I wish people, when I meet people, yell about Jane Fonda, and like, Hanoi Jane, and be like, please look into how she's built relationships with all these wonderful folks, all these veterans and their families, and that's the point, is that folks who are called enemies of each other, or, you live long enough, the government says, okay, there are enemies there. No, it's 20 years later, they're not our enemies. Those are our friends. These are our enemies here. And it's like, that's why, and just so you know, if you have a friend whose kid, or who just has been, they gung ho and they went to sign up, in like for a delayed entry program, they sign up in high school and they're going to leave as soon as they finish high school, they can get out of that. If they change their mind, or their sweetie or their mom wants them not to serve, they will get no punishment for getting out of a delayed entry program and choosing not to go, even though they signed initially. And it's no dishonorable discharge or something. And of course, they're going to want you to come and talk at the recruiting agent, at the Army recruiter, or whatever, the Marines, or wherever your recruiter was. Because if they get one recruit in a month, it's like a big deal, and they totally, but during George W. and Gulf War II, they super lowered standards of what they would allow someone to fight, and it's like, and that's why you always get 17 and 18-year-olds all psyched to fight, because if you get people when they're, mid 20s or 30, it's like, no, I've lived all these amazing things. I want to do these things. I have more dreams. I've been, because there, if you went, even if you don't go to college, but when you're 18 and you start just going out in the world, you'd be like, why would I think I need the Army or Navy or Marines to bring me around to these different places? Because I just fell in love with these new folks and these new places and these new trees and these new birds. And you're telling me we got to get back to the ship and we got to go back and get ready to kill people? Be like, because we've all met veterans. We have. That's why I feel so blessed to hitch up here 38 years ago, because 3 miles away, 2.5, a little less than 3 miles away, is 2.5 miles away is the VA, the Veterans Administration. And there's always amazing veterans around, who are going on around with the pain, even though they survived the pain of having killed folks, or just like had their hearts broken. And you've met veterans who even aren't at the VA, that you've probably been camping or been out and met friends of friends or met strangers, wonderful folks in the woods or whatever, that they can't be around their family. They're afraid they might hurt their family because of just PTSD reactions from being in battle. And so that's why you meet them out in the woods, because they're afraid to be around folks. And I'm just, I feel really blessed. It's true. I could have been killed a whole bunch of different times in my life. I just, no, I'm just thinking of what this is in Hawaii, when folks would come up and say, wait, no, you're talking that, this veteran, you don't know this guy, just, and, but, but there's always, we find out the more you're honest with folks, just wherever you are, then people are going to end up telling you, oh, I was planning on mugging you, like when I came up here 2 hours ago, but you greeted me with your heart and we just ended up hanging out. You saw me. You saw me for the little toddler that we both are, the little open-hearted little kid that we both are. So kids plural. I mean, we're all each shining individual, but you wish and pray that every parent would let every kid know that everybody is the most amazing kid ever. Wouldn't that be like amazing? Like, what would school be like, and what would life be like? What would work be like if there was no sense of bullying or intimidation? That whole threat. Oh, because the other person I was saying that Resma Menakem, Resmaamenakem, the other male doing the nice, beautiful healing stuff, is that he left behind what he called like the jackal mentality of like most reward. You're good, you're bad, the punishment system of jackal mentality, instead of what we call, like, you put on giraffe's ears. He studied under Carl Rogers, but that's Marshall Rosenberg. And he had survived. Well, when he was 8 years old, it was like he talked about how in 1943, well, there was the riots in Detroit, and he didn't know he was Jewish, but he didn't know the kids in the school. The kids are asking, "Are you a kike?" And he's like, he didn't know what that is, but they were ready to welcome to beat him up afterwards. But you hope it, um, like, everybody stays in good health. So even people that needed to attack us and needed to hate us, you wish for them so many wonderful life experiences, because when they're ready to see us, when they bump into us again years or months or 30 years later, whatever, that they have so much love and they felt so bad. Instead of saying, I can't wait to get back at that person who was so cruel to me, be like, just wish them so that they have so many interactions that they, in all the 30 years that they don't see you, they keep trying to make up for how mean they were to you. So they may never have may be too painful to write you or call you, because they're afraid, just we're all scared of, like, again, people being mad at us, that's, but all the good stuff they did in between. That's what I try and say when I meet fathers who are being so negligent to, like, sending money to their kids, and they haven't seen the kids in years, because it becomes this snowballing thing. They're afraid to go. I mean, that's how I can afford to be as glad to be here and saying hi to you, because I don't have kids. If I had kids, then I'd be this negligent dad or I'd be this wonderful dad, but then I wouldn't have made art and music. But I think an activism, and it pulls at me so much that I think, so I mean, I feel like I was some different grandmothers in other lives, different, which means I would have mothers, I guess, in other lives too. But it just, uh, to be a dad, you want to know that the kid takes precedent over whatever song wants to get born, or whatever, however you wanted to dance with the paint. And so when a father shows me the pictures of his kid, you're sitting and you're getting people to paint in a bar. And then, I haven't been in a bar in years, but if you go to see like some playoff game, and I haven't been, well, for years now, wow. Um, uh, but you're getting people to paint, and then they're talking about their lives. And then it's like, look, here's my kids. And the kid's only 2 miles away, and they could be hanging out with the kid instead, but he'd rather be watching the game and with his friends drinking. And then they're talking about a kid from another marriage, and that, hasn't seen in so many years since the kid was way, way, way little. And I'm like, just write a letter every time you feel stuck, even if you can't bring yourself to send it. When the kid finally tracks you down, or when you find the kid 10 years from now, you say, here's 300 letters, and make copies, because in case the kid or the people that got the letter, or the mothers, like, protecting you from the kid, from how horrible, you were, and how abandoning you were. But you have the letters, you have the copies of the letters. So it's proof to the kid that they weren't the most rejected kid in the world, because they feel bad enough. They feel like horrible enough. And you don't want, I mean, we need everyone to be working for the earth. It's never about you or I, or about the name of this or that country or ideologies, just to work for the earth together. There, people are like, what's your flag, man? What's your belief? What's the old saying of patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. And instead, you'll just, like, stand up for the earth, like the Apollo mission, the one just before Apollo 11. So this is around, I think, November 68, maybe. I'm trying to remember the exact month, around there sometime. But they went and but it was before July 69. So it was the mission before, and it was a picture of what the earth looks like from the moon. I'm sorry, I'm going on so long. I stopped making music. I'll make a tiny bit of music, and then we'll go to. I'll just go to and make some short little ones too. Oh, so we were in B. So wait, D. Oh wait, we didn't. Did we not play guitar? We did not. Do we? Right? Because I don't know what I'm doing. So whoever wants to hand me whatever. The love light sense never hit in every way. Do you behave? Do you dance from the heart of whoever's kicking you down? Do you sing from the heart of whoever's knocking you down? Sing from the soul of the every other, born from the light of the every other. We're sung from the light of love of the every other. You're a love light that's found anywhere we ever look, and we kindly toss anyone who's stuck anywhere on the right now. Someone gets reached by your love light the moment you don't mind. Every loving light of every being ever sitting in us all along. That's including every one of our enemies, singing in the breath, in the breathing, the love light of every scary being. Find ways to gladly sing in the love light of every scary being. I know there's always love light in every scary being. We will find it when we bring love to everyone on earth right now. When I mean everyone, I mean even thieves seemingly inanimate. You think something's inanimate, talk to your indigenous friends. Think something is not alive and singing. Please make bunches of new indigenous friends, circles of indigenous love lights singing in the heart of the other. You're sung by light, you're sung by love, you're sung by lights that give birth to love. This big bang, it sings in the heart of everything. Every water that's ever loved to sing, it sings from the heart of them. Why do you think we get so happy when we get in water where it's made of mostly water, and when we're suddenly surrounded by water? That's water meeting water. Every water loves singing in you. Every water loves singing earth now. Every water loves singing thanks to every ancestor. They love singing thanks to every ancestor. Every ancient ever is singing from the heart of every other. Every grandmother is singing from the heart of every other. Our Constitution was based on so much on the Iroquois Confederacy, the Haudenosaunee, the different tribes, look up Iroquois Confederacy, but the difference is we didn't adapt like the leadership of the grandmothers. That's where we screwed up, because we would have had way before, Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren. We would have, and Elizabeth Warren, if we'd been raised like that, Elizabeth Warren wouldn't, but she wouldn't have been Republican for the years that she was, because nobody's born to want to stand far from loving earth entirely. We bury our head in the book and we get really, really good at one thing or the other. But we miss out on every being that sits inside the breath of the every other. We miss when we look up and we just got post-COVID, let's say, and you're letting yourself be after COVID-19 closer than 6 feet to people, and you're bumping into folks as you're walking down a busy street, and you might be bumping into them, but they think you're bumping into, they think, I don't know, nobody's really bumping into each other. The point is, when people say about astral projection or being able to float above your body, just do it for practice, like from 50 or 40 or 100 feet above where you are. And instead of seeing like, oh, I got bumped by that person, I'm trying to get there and I'm late, oh, and instead you'll just see like the dance, like the sacred, beautiful dance of everybody coming at each other. And it might be the only time they're passing each other in this lifetime. And maybe instead of like one shoulder like gently, gently grazed, like the other shoulder, and that's like some blessed kiss, and maybe it diffused some tension. Like each person that was on their way, it was this total moment of softness, and they're each on their way to a meeting where they thought they were going to let somebody have it. And whenever we have something intense to say because we feel really hurt and used, and instead always wait like at least a few hours, or at least to the next day, often if possible. If you can wait till the next day, if not, just even if you need to take a half an hour or a breath, so that you're rooting for the person as you're bringing up all the painful stuff that you have to. You're rooting for them. You're picturing them in this open mode of them joyfully being an activist and serving Earth and being one of your favorite people ever, this person that's breaking your heart. So let's sing from the heart of every. Oh, wait, so we'll go late. Obviously, what is this? Sit down a tiny bit. Sorry. No, close enough. Wait. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Better go to no, because it just sounded a little out there. Maybe it's just my head. But I should go because this is more in tune here. Okay, so in D. So D. Okay. Ooh. So if you go to D flat is hi Carol, as my friend Carol Hutter, who I love so much, she taught me like 34 years ago that D flat's the sound of the earth. And then all your indigenous friends will just go. When I say indigenous friends, I mean every breath, every step ever is sacred step. So it's like if the day's kicking your ass and you're like, I don't feel like being nice, I just want to crawl under 100 blankets and just put on something that'll make me laugh, then just notice that after the 3rd minute or the 8th minute or the 30 seconds in, something made you laugh and it shifted, it opened your heart entirely. Then the strength, ask for future generations' help and great grandmother's help to turn off the screen then that's helping you laugh and help that just opened your heart, so that you can interact with all the songs that need to be expressed. Like I'm in the roof here of a building. These beams you see, they were from trees. It was built in 1875. And I think 1875, 1876, a flood came through here and killed 139 people the year before, in 1874, in May 16th, 1874. So between 2.5 or so miles up and then to about 2.5 miles down to where, like I said, the VA hospital. So 139 people died. Even, and there's markers around here, even little kids, kids younger than a year even. And they, just like today in 1874, and so it just blew through. Like the workers were complaining, and please build it stronger. And it wasn't 800 people here like it is now. Now it was thousands of folks in 1874. And then all the buildings got wiped out, and this was the only one that was rebuilt. All the other ones were built in Holyoke. One of the first like intentional cities, like the robber baron, like rich folks up on the hill and the poor folks down in the flats. And you got the Connecticut River coming down from Canada, going all the way to the Long Island Sound, which is a big part of Revolutionary War. You know what I mean? Because when you got dams and the boats can't cross over the dams, and like, but there's you find pictures, oh my God, of the Connecticut River from the beginning of the 1800s, where you'd have like be a mile, just over or even over a mile of just logs, coming down from. But I will say, when I read about loggers and how they'd all sleep under this biggest thing of skins together, and be up at 4 a.m, and they'd say I think tobacco juice they would use like for cuts and whatever. But I'd say it's true, because onions are a root vegetable and they hold. Well, they could get frozen and then that bad. But if you could bury them, and just the point is that they're such healers. They're the antibiotic to have out in the woods with you, or just to have with you. I have a half a pound of onions a day for many years now, and it's like they are anti. No food has like more sulfur in it. So their onions are antibiotic, antiviral, antiparasite, antimicrobial, and they're amazing. And they lower your blood pressure. You could be off your blood pressure medicine. I mean, check with all these different healers and doctors. If your doctor isn't into onions, I mean, that's crazy because you could um, you could be off your blood pressure medicine. It's better for your cholesterol. It's just like, and if you're having some trouble, if they're too bitter to you, you can put them when your pickle jar starts to get a little empty. Just dunk them in the pickle juice, even for like just even for a minute, or I mean, or hours. But even for a minute, just cut up some raw onion, and that's amazing antibiotic. Again, the only thing is it's blood thinner. So if you like somebody I love so much who's still alive, and she was supposed to be an amazing mother of two, and she was supposed to be dead um, 5 years ago, 5 years ago, and little over 5 years ago. Yeah. And we got to do it like a pound of onions. I mean, if you do like a pound of onions a day, but then you want to have a blood pressure cuff to make sure you're not going too low, on your blood pressure. That blood pressure cuff's really important, like to have around. And but again, always check. Don't listen to anything I'm saying. Just check it in a million different sources, or go to some of the better. Instead of when you go online to look at stuff, the internet can drive you insane, and you could get the craziest advice instead. And still triple check even the most highly regarded thing in hospitals. And like this way, the onions kept when they go back to her for chemo. They'd be like, oh, we can't give you the chemo now because this tumor went away. This tumor went away. This tumor's shrinking, and so we can't give you. You don't need the chemo. But I was going to say, go to some of the places like, if you go Cleveland Clinic or Cleveland Clinic, Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, um, more reputable like university, medicine connections, um, and then find the adjunct facilities. You know what I mean? There could be, and then still, even with the adjunct facilities, they make us like Brigham and Women's, which is Harvard affiliated, has a thing. I'm in Western Mass, so that's Eastern Mass, and they probably still have the Osher Center, which is the stuff that we do the acupuncture. But just because they do the acupuncture, they might not be doing it with the different mushrooms or turmeric or different cancer fighting herbs that you could be doing to make the uh, make the fight against your cancer like way more more possible and strong, and like, and again, check with a zillion different sorts. I mean, but there, because when you're letting the chemo in, like in between rounds of chemo, like you want to build up with the herbs and nutrition, the things that you can't use, certain herbs that would block out letting in the poison. But just who's that wonderful? I'll stop because I know nothing. Look up, talk to other people about this. I really know nothing. I just, it's like stuff I experience and we pass on, but I really don't know anything. But do find the best mushroom expert, because so many mushrooms are amazing at fighting cancer and so many other things. Paul Stamets, Stamets, and find this wonderful thing where he's talking at a TED, the TED Talks. He's talking at a TED Med Talk, and he says about, this is like 2011, maybe, I'm not sure, and he brings up about 8-9 minutes into the talk, he brings up, or the version I saw on TED or from YouTube, he brings up his 85-year-old mother, and I don't know, this is 2011 or so, and bless her wherever she is. I hope she's still alive. Love to her and love to everyone. Oh my God, and love to my stepdad right now. I will, and just yeah, he's being so knocked out. He's on IV antibiotics the last few weeks, and it's just because it makes you feel, it just knocks you out. So, but he's home now. That's the. Oh my God. So, so Paul Stamets' mother comes up about 9 minutes or so into the speech, and he talks about, because you've maybe heard about turkey tail mushrooms for breast cancer, just turkey tail mushrooms, and so she had waited, and he's felt so ashamed because he helped so many people. And I don't know if she's Christian Scientist or whatever the reason, but she hadn't been to a doctor, Paul Stamets' mother, in like 25 years, around 24, 25, 26 years or so. And he felt so ashamed that she didn't feel comfortable to come to him and say, I have this problem. So they went to this breast cancer clinic in Seattle, and it was the second worst case they'd ever see. And I think it was with Taxol. What was the chemo, but done in conjunction um, uh, with turkey tail mushrooms, and they were recommending it, and they didn't know that it was more than $1 million study from the National Institute of Health at the effectiveness of turkey tail mushrooms. So they were recommending his own turkey tail mushrooms to Paul Stamets' mother, and then she comes up on stage, and it made me feel so wonderful. Um, And that's, I think I got evangelical this way about in terms of people just addressing their cancers, because my dad, we waited too long with him. I so respected that he just wanted to not do the exploratory surgery to prove that he had the cancer. And, he let me do it with the shrooms and, and different foods and wheatgrass and barley grass, different, like I said, mushrooms and just different, all these different herbs. And find a book, sorry, last book. It's Healing with Whole Foods by Paul Pitchford, like Pitch and Ford, Ford, Paul Pitchford, and I think from the folks at Hartwood Institute in California. But there's a section around page 380 something for a number of pages on the cancer section there. And it's just a really kind, wonderful book. I'm vegan the last 6.5 years, so it really doesn't address things enough in a vegan way, but it's still so many blessings. I know. And friends, we tease because I'm like the luckiest vegan because I still love meat smells. Like, even smell of pizza or smell of meat or people talking instead of me happen, but instead of me getting grossly offended, I get happy because the animal, I guess, you want to be loved in your life. And part of your life, just like love continues after your life is over. Yes, you live this terrible life of slavery as this animal, as this chicken, as this pig, as this cow. And, but but the smell built into that smell is all this joy of sustaining somebody's life, because they may get such great detecting equipment, such great antenna that they may find out that all these vegetables, like just that meat, I'm still a murderer as a vegan, like vegetables is still dying, and everything dies so that we get to live. So that's the point of, again, going back to where I started for this thing, because I got to turn it off. Oh my God, going on 51 minutes. There's like is that it's not Democrat or Republican. It's that, like, what can we do just to, you know, like to bless each other, right? Because every nibble is like sacred. How dare I, in a million ways, think of other things when I'm eating? The only word for years, I thought the only word I should ever go is and then like there's nothing to say, but then I'm ashamed of all the times that I chew too fast. Excuse me, chew. Like I was the equivalent of when I said chew too fast, and I hiccuped almost. It's like when I've eaten bread too fast, and you get these crazy, crazy hiccups. But it's like different grandmothers will tell you, like, maybe to chew at least 12 times. 12 times, you on the 11th or 12th bite, you kind of sometimes notice the flavor going out of the bite. So you're just left with like the pure medicine of it then, if the flavor's gone out. Right. And I love when they're like, love to Jeff Brown, who's healing from brain surgery on Wednesday. And like, I was this is one of my dearest friends who I love so much, was since fourth grade in Queens. We're just dear friends since then. And he picked on me I was just telling his brother that, that Jeff, the first bunch of times that we met when I moved to the neighborhood in fourth grade, Jeff kept knocking my books down. I kept knocking my books down. And only when I stood up to him did we end up becoming like amazing, dear, super dear friends. So he's with brain cancer now and recovering from that. Now just healing, love, light to him and like everyone else on earth, right? The healthcare that we have, like you wish those the miracle healing to like everyone on earth. Like if like you figure like everybody who's ever lived a life could be around in any given moment, and um, what happens to get something to, over the years, you always hear stories of like some cancer was there and it's not there, right? Because like, again, not that I know how almost anything works, not that I know how most science works, but everything, is dancing in motion. Everything is molecules dancing. Particles are both, they're dancing, but they're also waving. There's the dance within every wave, right? So everything we see and hear is 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 like felt in the heart in waves. And when I say hear, there's sound there. Like I cut I did a low cut on the bass on the microphone, and uh, because the rumble will get to you. And I was just saying and thinking yesterday about that friend we love so much, Tim Young, who was deaf, but he would go to more music shows and get us to go to more music shows in the Northampton area than like anybody ever. Tim would like always be telling you, like finding ways to communicate, even though, I mean, he could, I mean, I was able to understand him way better than I can, because it's I have my own hearing stuff. I'm just thinking, because by the time my dad passed, he was wearing two hearing aids, but Tim would, that's why I was, what was I, was it saying yesterday about how, right, the whole thing, if you hold a ball, you hold a beach ball, you feel the vibrations. Oh, because a friend who's having surgery, knee surgery today, her firstborn, her first firstborn gave birth to her first grandkid. Uh, um, uh, and hi, hi, oh my God, hi Nico. Nico's turned 9 yesterday, so I love you, Nico. And I'm just picturing like how to feel like I'm so foolish and I'm wrong in a million ways. I have everything to learn, and I don't know what it's like to be deaf, but you still feel everything in the world, and you get to go through every most amazing, because everybody on earth struggles and everybody on earth has joy, you know, and it's like that's the great equalizer, right? When we're walking down the street, you see like somebody in a cardboard box, and then you see somebody who might be a billionaire, like just you're not handing your power away, and you don't ruin your day, you don't drain your day by just like rooting for both of them, or rooting for everyone of every side, because it's like there's no sides, there's just hearts that want to be relating to each other. And again, it's like when somebody gets hit with something, it slows us down, and we just have to open our hearts in different ways. Like my stepsister, who I love so much, died from ALS on June 15th, Phil Gerber, Gerber, like Phil, like Director Phil, so Phil. And look up there. We can end on that note. The most important thing is there's a congressional bill coming up, HR 7071. And there's still more Congress people we need to get to co-sponsor this, to accept as is. The, the folks who did the Ice Bucket Challenge have been wanting it to be hold off for more money, but instead of waiting, because to me, it's right now, it's a death sentence. There's this wonderful woman, Mayuri, and her brother, Mayank, and they're trying to go and, she's dying, but I don't want to believe, I still write to her and I'll be like, oh, I'm just praying for miracles. And look up hashtag AXE, AXE, and then capital letters ALS. That's Lou Gehrig's disease. And most people die within like 2 to 5 years of diagnosis. Phil lasted with 5 years in it, but it was 39 months after diagnosis. Stephen Hawking lasted over 50 years, but 10% of people at this point only live more than 10 years with ALS. And find out about this drug. Sorry, it's uh, the Brainstorm company that is working on also a COVID-19 thing. They finished like about 3.5, 4 months ago, phase 3 of the trial that was incredibly successful of stem cells. It's Neuron is the drug, NUR space OWN. And you inject the persons, you take their stem cells out, you treat it, you inject it back into them. And the phase 3 trial was done at Cedars-Sinai Hospital and Mayo Clinic and UMass and Mass General, and amazingly effective. It helps slow down and also do some reversal. Like no other drug about ALS has shown this. And so if Trump can sign some executive order, I mean, he did the photo op, the right to try movement. It's so important for people to have the right to try, the right to access any drug to save their lives. A friend who I love so much, who's downstairs one floor, Levi, it's look up Right to Life, not Right to Life. What am I saying? Um, it's Living in the Light, Living in the Light, and it's or from patient to person.com. And they bring the stories of folks and their families who are going through the folks, rare genetic disorders, including ALS, and they're just downstairs. So if you're in the building and you got off the elevator of the third floor, the pictures, like there'd be a 6-foot picture of this amazing girl who's 6 years old in the picture, and she's probably about 9.5 now. And she'd greet you, and you keep following the signs of pictures of 3.5, 4-foot pictures of faces of people, of mostly kids and adults too, but heartbreakingly affected with folks with rare genetic disorders. But and again, anybody they would get the story of that person out. They'd fly, they bus or travel or for free. Well, it's tougher now with COVID, but they'd get the story of the person. They'd visit them at no charge for the day, and they'd visit them and video and get the words down of what the family's going through. And then suddenly, so to these biotech companies, you want to always put a human face on it, a family face, what the whole family is going through together. So it's not just one person being afflicted, with this rare genetic disorder, because it's not just ALS. The other one coming up in the House of Representatives is HR 7269. Okay, so HR 7071 and HR 7269, and call your representatives and You'd be surprised, you can maybe get scheduling, somebody, he's, uh, oh my God, he breaks my heart in so many ways. I mean, he's done some good voting, but he just breaks my heart in so many ways. Um, Richie Neal, for over 3 decades now, that congressperson that he's in charge of Ways and Means, and I kept calling his office over and over again. And I talked 3 or 4 times with deputy head, his deputy head of legislation, Lizzie, and she's so nice. But then she sent me off this other Liz who was supposed to schedule me a meeting with him, and I just kept calling and calling for weeks and instead of over fixating on my congressperson, then I just started calling other congresspeople. I mean, I'd already called some other in other states, but at the time, let me see, 7269 only had Seth Moulton as the only one. Um, oh my God, that just ended there. Oh wait, hold on. Oh wait, wait a second. Um, so Seth Moulton was the only one for the 7269, but HR 7071. I haven't looked in last time I looked at the numbers, I was like a week and a half ago. There were like 190 co-sponsors on HR 7071. So it's Neurown, NUROWN, hashtag AX, ALS, and look up the hashtag idle no more, hashtag IDLE no more. Oh, and the person I was saying the last one of the threads I didn't finish up was Marshall Rosenberg, who had left. He still wanted to study under Carl Rogers. And when I was mentioning RESMA, look up RESMA, RESMAA.com, but look up cnvc.org, Center for Nonviolent Communication. And it's Marshall Rosenberg is like I said, when I said about putting the giraffe ears on when you listen to people instead of the jackal ears. So what you thought was criticism, or you thought was hatred, or maybe somebody's grandfathers killed your grandfather's relatives, and you've been pitted against each other. He's like gone to Gaza and West Bank. He's been sent by the UN. He's gone to Serbia and Rwanda to go to areas where genocide has happened. I mean, he also works with families and couples counseling, but he works with folks who've been through genocide. And at first he'll say about he'll be in I think it was Gaza or West Bank. No, it was Gaza, where some here's like mortared with U.S. imprinting on it. Here's some bombs that came in from Israel, and he's like, why should I trust you? And Marshall's Jewish, and the next thing you know, it's like a few hours later, and they're all just sitting and opening up and sharing hearts, because everybody's really the same beautiful toddler. Every being ever, every human is human. Everyone has need for all the love in the world, and that's the Marshall's point, is when you put on the giraffe's ears, then what you thought was his criticism, you just hear as an expression of the person's need. At worst, tragic, at super worst, a suicidal expression of their need. And and I don't know, I just discovered him. People had talked about him for years, but I finally focused. Like, it turned out, found him, and then it turned out he had died 2 weeks earlier. This is in February, about 5 or 6 years ago. And I've gotten like a dear friend and dear native friend, like she'll work with even her 5-year-old kindergarten kids about this whole conflict resolution thing. And just hearing each other's needs. I mean, we all know this, we all totally know this. But what's cool, I'll leave it on this note, because I should go, and oh my God, we're going on for an hour and 2 minutes. Okay, so, I'm so sorry. This is I didn't even know that you could go this long or something. Is that oh, I'm just spacing. Just so if you go to Marshall Rosenberg on YouTube and find like these 3-hour, 6-hour thing, and I was saying if you only have 2 or 2.5 hours or so before you have to meet some people for some intense meetings, and these people drive you crazy, and you're afraid you're going to be on the defensive, and you fall asleep instead of falling asleep next to the news, which could drive you nuts. Instead you fall asleep next to Marshall Rosenberg on YouTube. And it's such conflict resolution. It's such opening hearts and hearing each other's needs. We're all just that same sacred baby who wants their needs tended to. That's what I meant about feeling for whoever, whether they're living in a cardboard box or a billionaire. Everybody goes through pain, and hopefully, the more happiness you're wishing for someone, they're going to look outside themselves. Instead of thinking, oh, they can only have, there's some, they're a dictator and they only like the person that they the baby they hold in their arms, or their grandkid or their cat that they can pet. And instead can you imagine, that's like, if everywhere they looked, they just saw everybody as family, and then that would just make them behave kinder. There'd be less pain and less death, and there'd be less illness, and be like, when you saw people coming, you wouldn't be like, oh my God, let's get it. We just start a fight. You go there and I'll take there, and we'll run for cover, and we'll just hate each other from a distance and send spears, of daggers of the eye. But even spears in, like, I always love that. What's this thing, the story with Buddha, right? The arrows were being shot at him, and he opened his heart so wide that they turned into like flower petals raining down. And and I'm sure I hear like some cynical friends say, "Oh, I'm sure, Jeff," and then like, but again, it's every moment's the only moment ever. And if somebody's coming at us with all the hate in the world, then if I don't find some part of them that I can love, then I'm being really wrong-headed and I'm not serving Earth. In case every day is our last day ever, then well, how dare I not serve Earth? And then the joy of serving Earth, kind of, like, okay, we're singing from the heart of every PM. We're singing from the light of every BM. We're singing from the love of every soul on every earth right now. We're born from each other. We're sung from each other. We're lit from each other's love light. This is always true, no matter how often I get so scared to look at you. Nobody's other than the heart of every. We are the jamming of the every. We gotta find ways to show what joy there is. Standing up for Earth right now. Standing up for Earth right now. Why would I be scared to sing inside the breathing of every other? Why would I be scared to sing inside the breathing of every other? Why would I be scared to shine love light while I breathe in the light of every other? Why would I be scared to see the heart of you singing in the heart of the every other, shining from the heart of the every other? I'm so sorry that I was breathing from the love of light, shines from the every other. Why would I be scared to sing along with the heart of everything? Why would I be scared to look at you? You're as amazing as everything that you will ever do, or feel, or shine, or swim through. You're as amazing as the every view. You're as amazing as that every fish that just nibbled on you. You are sung from everyone. You are sung from love light. Every enemy is our teacher right now, teaching us to open up to love light. If someone's an enemy, they must have a family that's got some wonderful souls in it. And when anybody's freaking me out, I want to picture anybody's enemy and send love to everyone on both sides of every situation, because the second you go back to laughing or singing or just stretching or dancing, it's like, oh, why would I wait so long to share love light? It's the opposite of immune boosting when I don't share love light. Why would I be so scared to look into the light of every being ever? To look with love for the love of every being ever. Thanks to every grandmother that sings and shines in the breath of every being ever. Thanks to every grandmother, every community sings love light in the heart of every being ever. Every individual doesn't have to give up being themselves as they stand up joyously for Earth right now for the sake of their free other. Now vote tomorrow. Okay, sorry. I had to stop myself. It's going on so long. I don't know if it's, oh, we hit 108, that magic sacred number 108. So vote tomorrow. Vote for Biden and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, for president. And then we'll just keep our hearts open every day to like how Earth is always singing, and always Earth always needs us, and every being needs our love, and we can shine love starting forever and right now.